All right, welcome to the Intro to Film Scoring Masterclass live stream. If you are just joining us, we're going to give it a few minutes just to get some more people in the door. But if you have any questions, feel free to just pop them in chat. I'll be sitting here answering questions. And today we're going to just kind of go through the overview of what scoring the picture even is. That's for film, commercials, movies, TV shows, any sort of video project. I'm going to give it another 2 minutes just to kind of let everyone who signed up for this get in here. But it will be on the VOD on YouTube afterwards. I may have to fix some tech stuff, so I am recording a higher quality video. But yeah, I'll give it another like 60 seconds and we'll get started. If you are unsure what I'm talking about with the sign up, there was an itch jam for this, itch.io, where people usually do game jams, and I've been running composer challenges on the weekends. From there, I had a sign up link that has an email address that sent the live stream for this, as well as a video download for this weekend's composing challenge, where you'll get a video we can actually score and give each other feedback on. If you need tech help during that challenge, we have a Discord. There's a lot of composers. We're about 430 or 440 right now, with more joining every day. And someone there should be an expert in your DAW who can help you figure out how to synchronize video and how to get everything set up and running. Plus, there's always me, so feel free to leave a comment or hit me up on the Discord, and I'll help you get started. But anyway, let's get rolling. The very first thing I want to say is writing music for pictures is the same as producing music for anything else. There are a few challenges and thought process differences, though. But if you've produced music in like songs or video game music or just anything with a DAW, this is going to be fairly easy for you to pick up on. And that's kind of what we're going to focus in on today, just the technology and the thought process difference for scoring the picture versus scoring a game or just writing music in general. I will be sending these PowerPoints out to everyone who signed up on that mailing list. But if you want, on the mailing list, and there will be a video download link for the jam as well to download the video for this weekend. So be sure to check out the link in the description and get the video download, which will be sent out Friday morning. If you're watching this VOD in the future, there will be some sort of download link in the description for it. I'll figure that out at a later date. But anyway, let's just hop right into it. The first thing in film music that people really consider is the aesthetic. And you may hear terms like cinematic music thrown around quite often. But there's not actually a quote-unquote cinematic standard of what film should sound like. You could have the John Williams thing, where it's a big romantic orchestra. You could have the Hans Zimmer thing, where it's much more minimalistic and textured. Or you can go into like the indie art house vibes, where you have like Johnny Greenwood doing these really crazy aleatoric type strings, or you have Disaster Piece with like synthy, demonic synth lines, like John Carpenter. Genres for film music can be anything and everything. There's no such thing as a film sound outside of the traditional romantic orchestra, which was popular during like the golden age of Hollywood, but we've long since evolved past that. A lot of composers even build their own instruments, such as myself, or they'll develop new music theory and new tuning systems, such as they did for Avatar, and they'll build these sound worlds that may not have the consistent language we use in the real world, but for a movie, it just makes a lot of sense of why we're doing it or how it sounds. The reason we do that, though, is because film music has one important challenge we have to conquer, and that is the immediacy of sound and recognition. When we're working on a film, we have to follow the picture. We don't have time to build up a long theme with a 3-minute piece of music that develops into blah, blah, blah. What happens when we work on a film is the minute we hear music, we're also seeing something correlate with it on screen. Now, this doesn't mean we don't have melody, themes, leitmotifs. This is actually where they excel. Those are more of a long-form idea. So the characters have their kissing moment, and this plays for the montage or the few moments after or while they're kissing. But the point I'm trying to hammer in is the importance of timbre, harmony, and genres, because those are instantly recognizable from one sound, even if we don't hear the rest of the piece. It's a very minimal approach to film scoring, but that's kind of where we are these days. But if I were to take a distorted guitar and like just slam a chord, a power chord, that is a very different story you're hearing through sound than if you were to take a piano and do an open fifth in the low register. Every timbre and harmonic choice you make is just as important as your melody, theme, or leitmotif. In fact, there's a really good video of Hans Zimmer talking about his score for The Dark Knight, and he had a razor blade scraping on a string as the theme for the Joker. Sound design and sounds, timbre, all these things are just as important as melodic theme in film as melodic theme. Sorry, I'm pretty new to live streaming and giving presentations. I am reading notes, but anyway, let's go forward more. So we can take one melodic idea and arrange it in 100 different contexts. It could be, we can change the harmony and it's much more sad. We can make it much more alien sounding. We can make it more foreign sounding. We can make it sound atonal, just with the same melody. We could take an orchestra melody and put it in a jazz band. We could put it in a rock band. All of these things contribute so much to the music and the story we're telling, but we can also do melodic development. So we might have a long 32 bar theme, but from that we might take a 2-beat segment, and use that as a leitmotif from the theme throughout the film. And all these different ways we take little segments and cells of the melody and bring them back and rearrange them and try them, all contribute to that feeling of a film score. You're not typically going to have 90 minutes of music in a film score where nothing repeats. That just gets messy. And that's also why you hire composers, because they will work in this sense of, hey, we have this 8 bars of material, this melodic theme. How can we rearrange it and reuse it and get the most mileage out of it versus, all right, give me 200 minutes of music by next Monday. Anyway, so how do we even know what to write when we're talking on a film? You might talk to a director, and they may have some reference tracks for you. Reference tracks can hurt you or help you, but it's often not your choice, so learn how to deal with them anyway. Personally, I prefer having reference playlists sent and making mood boards with the director, because I feel that they get less demo love when it's not locked into the picture. But typically the problem with reference tracks is the director or the composer will watch these things and they'll be kind of stuck on a specific moment that happens, and they'll fall in love with it, and they'll just keep going back to it no matter what you write, how good the music is. If you don't have that, like, those moments that exactly work the way it did, it's just not right in their head. A lot of composers also feel creatively trapped by reference playlists, reference tracks, but that's just up to you. Some people love that they give them a direction and help them figure out where to go. The other thing I like to do, which I'll do a deeper video on in the future, is I will start from the story of a film. I will look at the characters, the plot, the themes, like the literary themes, and I will try to find ways to use texture and timbre to do little sound palettes, and find what material works best with these characters. So let's say one of the characters is a cowboy-esque type, but it's set in like corporate America. You have like this really rugged man working in like the Apple store, a very sleek and minimal thing. All right, so maybe I have some sort of like really clean, pure synth sound going like for the Apple vibe, but then I have a really like twangy guitar on top of that. And then I flesh out the rest of the orchestration and the arrangement with other more balancing types of sounds. But I would use that to start as a sort of starting point of how I'm conceptualizing a score. Try to start from the characters and what sort of themes we're exploring to start building ideas. So that's sort of the aesthetic side of film scoring, the choices we make in choosing our music and composing the music. But there's the technical side, too, we also have to worry about. In film, as opposed to like video game or pop music, we have to synchronize our footage to the music, our music to the footage. And the best way to do that is working in what's called frame rate or time code. So linear time, traditional time, if we're talking like minutes and seconds, goes seconds, minutes, hours, etc. When we're working in frames, such as film, we're actually talking in frames per second. And that is our frame rate. Now, you might be familiar with the term talkies to describe how movies went from being silent films to talkies, or movies where they can talk. The word movie is a similar origin because we had pictures and then we had moving pictures, movies. These pictures would flash at a certain rate depending on how they're being shown. Back then, it was a little less consistent, but now we have like 23.98. We have 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second. We have 29.97 frames per second with drop frame or non-drop frame. This is the amount of images, single still frames, that your eye sees per second. So with that in mind, we would look at our time code as from the farthest right, we have frames, seconds, minutes, and then either hours or reels, depending on how you're working. Typically today, in a digital format, we do work in hours, but when we were doing analog, each real number would be the first digit in time code. Now, the idea of drop frame or non-drop frame is really important to understand because your music won't sync properly if you don't. In drop frame time codes, every minute, except for multiples of 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, every single minute besides those, you will drop a single frame at the start of the minute. And you'll often see that notated with a semicolon versus a colon in the time code. But always check your time code regardless, double check, triple check. Some DAWs will even double or triple check for you, but always do your own check just in case. To find your frame rate, you're going to open up your video in your DAW, and it should tell you, most DAWs, but the other way to do it is, sorry, let me just grab this. You have to get the info on it. So Command-I on a Mac, and it should tell you encoded frames per second, 29.97. When you're working with a director, they're going to send you their video, and if it's the first time working together with you, you should ask for burnt-in timecode. Burnt-in timecode is having the timecode on the video itself versus having the timecode just be something that's assumed. This will allow you to communicate effectively, like, hey, I want the music to start at 3 minutes and 26 frames. And when you guys are talking back and forth, it's a lot less abstract than, oh, when her eyes look at him. No, it's on this exact frame. It's an address. And this is why composers tend to prefer locked cuts, is because they're working to this address of each frame for all their timings. When you send them the music will actually have the timecode embedded if you send a broadcast wave file, so that all they need to do is drag and drop it into their editor to get it in the right spot. Frame rate is very, very important. I want to stress that because I've done projects where I've accidentally wrote all the music in the wrong time code and nothing synced up, and I had to go back and manually adjust everything by hand. It is hell. But when you are doing this sort of thing, the other thing that might be useful for you is get the film from the director and make a low-res proxy of it. So open up a program like Handbrake, and if you got like a 4K version of the movie, make a lower resolution version that you can use in your DAW with less resources. You don't need Ultra 8K footage to write music to. Like 720 is fine. And that'll save some resources on your system. The other thing I may ask for from a director, which might be helpful for you guys if you're just starting out, is I will try to get them to send me the video, but also 3 stems. A dialogue stem, and a music stem, a temp music stem, if there's any, and a sound effect stem. When I'm working in my DAW, this just allows me to have the flexibility to turn different things on and off and hear the temp track or manage the sound effects, especially if the sound effects are temp, and kind of work around them rather than, oh my god, it's on mixed, everything is kind of chaotic and loud, clipping, and then quiet. But yeah, so let's move on. When you start, and I'm going to open my DAW soon and kind of show you this process, you need to sync your video. That should say the DAW. You should need to sync your DAW to the picture. Every session you do should be its own cue. Do not have one long 2.5 hour session for your film. That creates a lot of timing problems later on if you ever need to delete or change anything, because everything afterwards will also get shifted. When you have each cue as its own session or sequence, it's a little more annoying because you need to be really good with your folder and organization and file management. That's actually what one of my jobs was when I was working for Trevor Morris, was managing his files and his folders for these TV shows. But it is so helpful, and it's easy to script. So if you can figure out how to do that, or check out my blog, I have a great blog article about using QDB to export folders using Excel and string concatenation. Or actually I have a video of that on my YouTube, but I have a great video showing how to script this and speed up the process once you have your spotting session. But yes, anyway, once you get your film in the DAW and you have the start code be the same in the picture and the DAW, double check all of your tech specs, your time code, your sample rate, your delivery requirements, bit depth, anything like that. You should check now before you make any commitments to the music. And lastly, if you are using a DAW, consider making some templates. Templates will save you a lot of time, especially if you're doing this over and over again. Some composers will have a master template where they kind of just have every instrument they own. Other composers will have different smaller templates for each purpose. Like, hey, here's my jazz band template. Here's my rock band template. Here's my orchestra. And then some are a little more modular. They'll have like a blank template that has like their most common stuff, like a strings, piano, and then they'll bring in each section as a preset as needed. But anything you can do to save yourself time in scoring is going to be just make the world of difference for you. With that said, I want to talk one more thing about about this, and then I'll show you this all in a DAW. This is the process typically I would go through. I would find a tempo for a scene, and I would find a click for it. 100% of the time, we are going to use a Uri click unaccented. This minimizes headphone bleed of the studio, and it's just a little easier for players to deal with for long hours. And from there, I'll set up my markers, my sync points, I'll do the tempo mapping, and figure out all the unusual time signatures. But anyway, let's open up my DAW and hop into it. So here is Digital Performer. This is the DAW I've used. It's what I learned at Berklee. I also use Cubase, Pro Tools, and all that fun stuff. Hold on, let me just minimize this. But what we want to do is we first want to look at our video that we have. So let me pull that up. And this video is the silent film for Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney. Came out, I think, 1924, 25. It is public domain, I believe. I need to double check that before I send you guys anything. But we have a scene here. This scene starts at 1:49:39:13. Okay, well, we checked the time code before, but let's just double check it. It's 29.97. Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into our DAW, and every DAW should have this function. I know the hotkeys, but I'm going to avoid them. We're going to import. Okay, wait a second. I think I need to use the hotkeys on Digital Performer. Okay, I'm going to open the video. Shift V for DP, and other DAWs usually have is import video. And you'll notice if I go to bar 1, the video itself is not at bar 1. If I go to scrub the video, the very first frame of the video is actually set to 000 in my DAW. You almost never want to work starting at hour 0 because you need room for pre-roll. Instruments don't just start on the beat. If you're using any live players, they tend to come in with the idea that they may play a little early. So first off, hour 1, 49, 39, 13. I am going to set my sequence start time to match this video. 1, 49, 39, 13 at measure 1. Cool. So at measure 1, everything lines up. No, I did something. There we go. Hold on one sec. Why am I tripping? Oh, I have to start. I set the video start time, not the chunk start time. I set the chunk start time, but not the video start time. So let me start the video start time now to 1, 49, 39, 13. So you need to make sure you're setting the DAW to the same time that the video starts. So now they're in sync. I'm also going to check my settings up here. I have the same frame rate, and I'm recording at 48 kilohertz and 24 bits. That's the standard for film, 48 kilohertz, 24-bit depth. That tends to be the standard stereo wave files for delivery, but always good to ask. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in chat. I am still learning how this streaming thing works, so I apologize if it's a little clunky. Anyway, now we have this video, and if you're familiar with Phantom of the Opera, there's a scene where Christine is taken by the Phantom, and she takes his mask off. Let me turn the click off real quick. She's kind of curious about what's under his mask. He's playing the organ with her, or to her right now, and she's thinking about it. There's a curiosity, and then she takes off this guy's mask. Not yet. We're building to it. And in this moment where his mask comes off, watch what happens. The audience gets scared, but she hasn't reacted yet because she hasn't seen his face. Now she reacts, and it's terror. But his face, his emotion is more anger, more embarrassment, anger, frustration. So depending on how you play this, you can go different ways. And what we should do next is go through this scene and figure out what the emotions are. So bar 1, I'm going to put a marker down, bar 1, and it is going to be locked, which means it's going to be synced to real time, not bars and beats. And it's just going to say music in. This is a silent film. We need music wall to wall, which means the entirety of the time through. Music in. And we're going to play in this sort of curiosity sort of vibe at first. And from here, we're building. I'm going to say we start building some suspense right here. 49, 57, 23. But that's not a hard sync. So build sus. And we're going to keep going. A few seconds ago, I want to go back to where her hands start to come down. So I'm going frame by frame to figure out where this happens. Alright, so about here is where I want. So I'm going to put down another marker. Lower suspense. And we're going to go again. Only this time, we're actually going to get the mask off. We're building, and that's the frame we want to hit, right? Probably about right here. And also notice, as the video frame is changing, so is the frame in our transport up top. So I'm going to drop a marker, and this is going to be a big hit point for us. A hit point is a specific moment of music we need to hit with music. So if you have a cartoon and you're hitting a ton of hit points, like every motion is being captured musically, that's called Mickey Mousing. On the other side is there's the idea of just completely ignoring all the sync points, which is kind of popular nowadays, but it creates a much more like dreamy feel, or tends to. And typically in film, we try to hit some sync points, but not all. We're selective with how we have things react because we don't want it to be cartoonish. But this is a big moment that we want to acknowledge. Hold on, the video froze there for a sec. So now we're going, and we have another change of mood, so I'll drop this down. This is probably going to be a new section of music. And I think we're just going to play that out till the end, whatever this big dramatic theme is, right? Because it goes all the way until, for another about 20 seconds, just building this drama, this terror, this fear, this confusion. The silent films really milk these sort of things. But yeah, if you guys are ever looking for scoring practice, silent films are a great way to do it because a lot of them are public domain and available online. And if you're trying to work with like nerdier film people, they love it when you have this in your reel. Anyway, I'll put an MX out so we know where the track ends. And if we zoom out, we can kind of see the whole progression here. So we have our music in, we have our build, we have our hit point, we have the play into the big drama, and we have our out. Now, you may notice something. We don't have any tempo or anything yet. Ignore that I have a tempo in the top. We're going to start out just a default 120. And if I were to watch the scene with the click on, so I'll try to figure out what tempo I want to work at. So this is 120. I think it works pretty well, especially if I'm playing like longer notes. I was looking around 127, 128. And one thing to pay attention to is how your markers line up with the bars. So if I'm at 127, our suspense sort of works very musically, and we can kind of fudge it because those don't need to be hard. But we have this hit point right here if we stay at 127. Now, this hit point happens, let's see, if I scroll over to it. In the middle of beats 3, oh, sorry, that's the out. Hold on. In the middle of beats 2 and 3. What that means is I can take a look at beat 3 and see, I think that's a little too late. Okay, beat 2, I think that's still a little too late. So, what I'm going to do in this case, you could either go increase the do a tempo change to really draw that out and hit the beat on the downbeat, or a meter change. I'm probably going to do both. So I'm going to have a measure of 2/4 here. Change my meter to 2/4 just for one measure. That's going to take a second to load. And all right. So now I'm going to pull up my markers and get the actual calculation of what time that marker is on. So if I go here, it is 150:02:21. Different DAWs are going to have this done different ways. I'm going to change my tempo. And Digital Performer is really nice with this because it will calculate tempo for you automatically. I'm looking for a linear tempo change, and I'm looking for frames. Wait. Options. All right, so I want it to end at, hold on, let me do that again. Just gotta get the, I didn't write that down. 50:02:21. Oops. Oh, you know what's happening? I used my tempo slider here. I didn't lock my tempo at the beginning. So let me just do that really quick. Sorry, it's fun doing this live. I've never done anything live before. But yeah. By the way, I do offer lessons. I teach Pro Tools, Cubase, Digital Performer, film scoring, video game scoring, you name it. I'm happy to share what I know. Just send me a message and we can set something up. But anyway, let's go back to our measure over here. So we want this to land on the downbeat of beat 1, measure 1, this hit point. So we're going to play with the tempo a bit here. Linear tempo change, options, and we want 50.02.21. And what that's going to do is going to adjust the speed here of our music. Oops. To land on beat 1, which, hold on. Why did it not do that? Oh, I had the wrong time code. That's why. It's 50.16.03. So it's a difference of 4 frames. So it's going to be very, very minor, this shift. But check this out. If you look at our tempo, we went from 127 to 150. I think that's a little too much of a jump, so I'm going to actually go back a bit, and I'm going to make it a little longer, a little more gradual. We'll do from bar 13, so a little more time to develop that. But yeah, these are the things film composers try to do, is they try to make the tempo changes and meter changes a lot more seamless. Oh, crap, I didn't get... Let me write this down real quick. Our hit point is at 50.16.03. All right, now I will do the tempo change, and okay. So now, instead of going straight up to 150, all right, something's weird here. Hold on. What is not happening right? Oh, and tempo. Huh? All right, there we go. I was not selecting the end tempo. My bad. So anyway, we're going to slow it down and... Beautiful. Anyway, from there, we are going to just write our music. We have our beats lined up to the markers. We have everything working, and now it's just decisions of what do I write. Let me just mess with that for a sec. I have a synth here pulled up, I believe. Cool, let's hear it with the click. Also, real quick, this is why we want pre-roll, so I can get conductor track, insert measures, insert 2 before the start of measure 1. Hey, Blight and Lorenzo, thank you for joining. I'm sorry that I'm figuring this out as I go. Not the film scoring thing, but the tech thing. Streaming is a little more fun than I thought. But if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to help you out. Also, I'm happy to go over this again with you guys afterwards because, oh boy, it's very different doing this in front of an audience. But, cool. Sorry about that. Let me go into this now. Just So, beautiful. You got the idea. What you notice, though, now we have a new problem. Because we have this changing tempo. Also, sorry, this patch has a really annoying hum. We have this changing tempo while we're playing, and we have delays on our patch, right? So as the tempo increases or changes, our delay also gets weird. And we get that sort of tape warble effect. The only way we can really avoid that sort of thing, which is something we come across a lot in scoring, is to score to use our delays with time-based rather than tempo-based timings. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole film scoring process. If you guys want me to do another one where I kind of go more into the basics of music production, I'm happy to. If there's any questions, there's about 2 or 3 people here right now, I think. Let me know. I'll wait for a few minutes. Otherwise, I am going to just probably edit this video down a bit and take some of those moments out. But yeah, thank you guys for joining today. I hope this was helpful. And I'll send you this. I'll send you a couple scenes from this movie on Friday. Let me just check the Discord quick, just because I imagine... Oops, that should not have been on that side. All right, cool. We are good. Thank you, guys. I will put this up ASAP for you, and let me know your thoughts.